So, good evening, everyone. We'll begin with our Dharma request, and we want to just give a little bit of a brief kind of reflection on doing the Dharma request. This is a chance for us to invite the presence of the three jewels. Oh, we have the sheets for people for Dharma request. We're not using this yet. We use it after the Dharma request. And so we're thinking first for people to sit up straight, kind of take a deep breath.
Relax.
And it's kind of preparing our hearts to you could say, receive the Dharma, ourselves included. We're not sure what will arise, but we hope that we can be kind of appropriate vessels to be able to be in service to the Dharma. And we have two young men who also have volunteered. No one twisted their arms. They volunteered themselves to request, so that's also very precious. So I thought we can all just put our hearts together and really make the ritual connect to our heart. So, okay. Put our palms together.
恭请大德圣地，为此法会及一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，速证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings. Please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto sucedoye alahadi samya sanbuddhosye.
Namo sadanto sucedoye alahadi samya sambuddhosye.
Together.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. But now we see it, hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning.
All Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, Dharma Masters present, Dharma Master Jingfo, Dharma Master Jingwei, and everyone here, and everyone online, good evening, Amitofo.
Amitofo.
I think people probably noticed that Jingwei Shi and myself are not Reverend Heng Shi. He's actually probably right now leaving the monastery on his way to the airport to fly back to Australia. And so he asked Jingwei Shi and myself to help with tonight's lecture. And I first wanted to say that a lot of hearts and hands made this lecture possible. I can see all the technology in front of us, from computer to camera to projector to tech person to, I'm sure, other people in the background doing things. And also I was just watching the Dharma request, and it was quite touching to see one of the young men holding the sheet for the other man who was trying to recite into the microphone. I said no one twisted their arm to do the Dharma request, which I think is a very good sign for the Dharma, that people are willing to request. So tonight we were thinking of continuing with the Purifying Practices chapter of the Avatamsaka Sutra. If people have followed our lectures, maybe
a year ago,
maybe a year or 2 years ago, we started on the Purifying Practices chapter, and we thought that this would be what we would do if the opportunity arose for us to give a sutra lecture. That way there's some kind of continuation. And what we were really inspired by this particular chapter is that it goes through a day of the Bodhisattva's life. He or she, wakes up in the morning and basically goes through a whole day, and you get a chance to see what the Bodhisattva reflects on as he goes about his life or her life. And so we thought it was extremely practical, and we can share many stories that we've experienced here in the monastery. Or tonight, for instance, we're going to also share about our recent trip to India. I don't know if people know, we went to India early January for about 3 weeks, and we have lots of stories and lots of pictures to share with people. And so, I don't know if you want to add anything. So what we would like to do in the beginning is we invoke the presence of the Avatamsaka assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So the tune is very simple. It's Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Jing Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Pusa. That means homage to the flower garland assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. No, flower garland Sutra and the flower garland assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And again, this is most important is our heart, that we open our hearts to receive the light and wisdom of the Avatamsaka assembly.
Unfortunately, we don't have any guitar and banjo, but you can use your natural instrument and you can just chant together and kind of see how this sounds is carry on. The sacred name, and we kind of enter to the sacred space we create together. Outside and inside, the kind of our heart can be open to enter to Avatamsaka Dharma. It's quite unique, and quite special and quite precious.
And maybe I can just say, for those who see the screen here, oh, there it is. It's actually a picture of Borobudur. I don't know if people know Borobudur. Want me to share screen? Okay, let me do that here.
Yeah, it's good to say.
I'll just mention what it is in the background. This is my desktop, and because it connects with the Avatamsaka Sutra. It's a monument dedicated to the Avatamsaka Sutra, and it's literally like a small hill. And you walk up this hill, you actually have first reliefs of the Buddha's life story, and then you have reliefs of Sudana's journey, meeting all his teachers, going up and up and up to the very top. And in each of these kind of stupas is actually a Buddha inside, pretty much life size, maybe even a little bit bigger than life size. So it's really big. It's like a mountain. And on top, this is actually just a picture of Borobudur. Look at this is scenery, like this mist, this mountain in the back, the sky. It's actually like that. You go there and it's like a magical place. So I thought, what a wonderful kind of manifestation of the Avatamsaka Sutra in our world.
Can you imagine, we adorn the sutra by chanting the name of the sutra. You can imagine how people who made it put a lot of effort, heart, of years. They didn't have ChatGPT at the time to figure it out how many, the rocks has to be cut perfectly and fit all the Buddhas. Inside are the Buddhas, what we're seeing here. I never been there, but I saw the pictures and it's just outstanding. It's just amazing. Do you remember when it was built?
I don't remember when it was built.
I think similar timeline, Angkor
Wat, maybe, yeah. Okay, so let's recite the Avatamsaka Sutra's title. We use the fish?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have instruments.
Yeah, we have instruments.
Namo Davang Guang Fo Wayan Jing Wayan Hai Wei Fo Bu Sai Namo Dava Wang Bo Wayan Jing Wayan Ai Wei Fo Bu Sai Namo Davang Guang Bo Wayan Jing Wayan Ai Wei Fo Bu Sai Namo Davang Guang Bo Wayan Jing Wayan Ai Wei Fo Bu Sai Namo Davang Guang Bo Wayan Jing Wayan Ai Wei Fo Bu Sai Namo Davang Guang Bo Wayan Jing Wayan Ai Wei Fo Bu Sai Namo Davang Guang Bo Wayan Jing Wayan Ai Wei Fo Bu Sai Very good, as
Very
G. Forsha used to say.
Very good, yes. Okay, so let me close this. Get the sutra text out. So this is the title of the sutra, 大方广佛华严经 Jing Heng Ping, translated as Purifying Practices chapter. You can think about it as we go about our spiritual practice, something actually cleans up inside. And also things start to clean up outside. I think we probably notice that when we start to meet the Dharma, somehow our life slowly begins to work itself out. So let's just jump into the text, because we've actually gone over the beginning before, and what we were hoping to do is just to get through the first series of questions of this sutra and then share stories from India. Okay, so maybe we can all put our palms together and read the Chinese. Maybe we can read it together and then read the English together. Would that be good? Okay. So, 二十智首菩萨问文殊师利菩萨言 At that time, foremost wisdom Bodhisattva asked Manjushri Bodhisattva, 佛子菩萨云何得无过失身语意业 Disciple of the Buddha, how does a bodhisattva get faultless karma of body, speech, and mind? 云何得不害身语意业 云何得不可坏身语意业 云何得不可坏身语意业 云何得不退转身语意业 云何得不可动身语意业 云何得速生身语意业 云何得清净身语意业 云何得无染身语意业 云何得智慧先导身语意业 Okay, now the English. How does he get non-harming karma of body, speech, and mind? How does he get blameless karma of body, speech, and mind? How does he get indestructible karma of body, speech, and mind? How does he get non-retreating karma of body, speech, and mind? How does he get unshakable karma of body, speech, and mind? How does he get supreme karma of body, speech, and mind? How does he get pure karma of body, speech, and mind? How does he get undefiled karma of body, speech, and mind? How does he get karma of body, speech, and mind that is guided by foremost wisdom? Okay. So maybe just scroll up to the beginning here, and we'll do a brief gloss because we've gone over this before. So in terms of context, here, foremost wisdom Bodhisattva is asking Manjushri Bodhisattva a series of questions, and then Manjushri Bodhisattva will answer later in verse. And so what we thought was quite interesting to point out here is actually the Dharma is spoken upon request, like we just saw, right? Two young men went and made a Dharma request. And actually it's really important when we come to the Dharma to actually have this heart of wanting to learn, of sometimes even coming with questions. You know, what is it that we really want to learn from the Dharma? Because when we have something in our heart that kind of opens up, then the Dharma can actually come in. If our heart is already closed, like I know it all, you know, I don't need anything else, then the Dharma can be all around us, but nothing gets absorbed because our heart is closed. And so what I find really striking about this is here you have a bodhisattva named Foremost Wisdom, which means that he probably is very wise.
And he knows the answers.
And he probably knows some answers, yeah. But he's in front of Manjushri Bodhisattva, who is the Bodhisattva of great wisdom. And so he has questions for Manjushri. And so what we thought of just sharing was a story we had, was it last night?
Last night.
Last night. Want to share what happened last night?
Yeah, I think this man came for a meditation. We
Yeah.
don't say the name. He drove from Stanford.
Yeah. Well, I think he took public transport.
Public
So it was like, what, like
transport.
an hour and a half, 2 hours to get here.
And he had a really burning questions. How I
Really
can
burning question.
cultivate. Even I don't know how I can express these questions, but I want to try. And can I talk with you? And I say, well, can join the evening ceremony. After the ceremony, we can have a conversation. And we stay with him like, I think an
Hour and a half.
hour. Very sincere man, but
Yeah.
a lot of questions. And as you can see in his eyes, in his body language, it's like, wow, I really want to know. I want to know how to cultivate. Do I cultivate correctly?
Yeah.
You know, and as you see this kind of thirst, I can imagine that he could be a good example in this assembly.
Yeah.
I don't know, you came with these burning questions. I know that some of you flew from Oklahoma, so it's quite far, to find some answers, or with now some friends from Seattle. So the distance is not a problem if we have a real love for the Dharma and want to really learn.
Yeah. And people from all around the world. I know some people maybe in Australia or China or Malaysia or wherever you are. So we're very happy to have you. And what we thought of making this a little bit interactive.
I have to bring that.
Oh, I did. I gave it to
Oh, really?
one of the
Oh, wonderful.
people. So, not yet, not yet. So we're trying to be a little bit more innovative. So what we decided to do was we translated those questions we just read into our everyday English. This is, you could say, because the Bodhisattva is far beyond, in terms of, what do you say, their, I don't know, the stages of where probably foremost Bodhisattva is at. But we thought if we could just translate this into words that we would use in our own life to ask the Bodhisattva.
So can you imagine if you are in this assembly
Yeah.
and you see the foremost wisdom Bodhisattva, what you can ask him. So now first we translate those.
Yeah, we're translating it into kind of everyday English. So the first question about having faultless karma of body, speech, and mind is, how do I not mess up my life? Right, you don't have faults, you don't have mistakes. How do I not live a life that's not full of mistakes, right?
Yeah.
And it's actually a key piece of this is actually body, speech, and mind. We translate into life because we don't usually ask like that. There's a body, speech, and mind. But it's actually interesting that it's so specific. If you actually really look at the Buddha's teachings, he breaks down our experience into body, speech, and mind, which is very useful.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not like there's a lot of things we have to pay attention to. We pay attention to the thoughts or the emotions, that we're having. We pay attention to the words that we're saying, and we're paying attention to the actions that we do. And so if we keep our awareness on those things, we begin to get a much better sense of how we're doing. So here the question is, how do we don't mess up in those areas? So that's
And it
question
mess up
number
in
one.
general in the
Mess
life.
up in
and
general. Yeah. So that's number one. Number two,
how do I really live a life of care?
yeah,
So it's not, we translate to care to non-harming.
yeah,
Sometimes the non-harming can be seen as a little bit a negative aspect. So if we flip this, how we learn how deeply care,
yeah. We were
How- how this care can manifest, how does it feel when we care someone about us.
I think people might know this word non-harming is in Sanskrit ahimsa. It's been popularized by, I think, especially Gandhi, when he had the non-violent kind of movement in India, which was picked up by Martin Luther King Jr. Ahimsa became a very powerful word in the world. And we were just in India, and we learned that it says non-violence doesn't really capture the spirit of this word. And they sometimes use the word as creative love.
Creative love.
Or I would say this deep care, this compassion that is boundless. So how do we live a life of boundless compassion and care? Right, second question. Third question, when we talk about blameless karma, I think we sometimes don't ask that. How do I live a blameless karma life? We say, how do I live a life free of regrets? Right? Isn't that a good question to ask? How do I live a life free of regrets? Because sometimes we have regrets. I'm actually, I think, 40 now.
You're 40, yeah.
I'm 40 now, and I was actually honest. I'm trying to think about my life. Wow, I think I'm kind of old now. It's still kind of a little bit like dawning on me. I'm actually old, and I need to think of what am I doing with my life. Do I have regrets? And how do I live a life that I don't have regrets? That I am happy with the decisions that I make. It's a good question.
Right. Number 4 is, how do I live a life that has strength and integrity? So it's indestructible karma. It's kind of not easy to find equivalent in English. And the indestructible is, like Master Hua explained, it's like a vajra, like a diamond, right? You cannot destroy the diamond.
Yeah.
But we translated, kind of try to find the good words, what is the kind of an inner strength, or can be even a faith, which kind of help us to keep going on our spiritual journey. And of course, the integrity is a very important element of it, and very connected to life of no regrets.
Yes. Yeah, they're all kind of interwoven if you think about it, interconnected. Okay, the next one was the non-retreating karma. We translate, how do I live a life in accord with my vows, or my aspirations, or my commitments? Right, that's, I think, also really important, that we make promises, sometimes to our parents, sometimes with our spouses, sometimes with our fellow monastic brothers and sisters, sometimes with our business partners. And actually sometimes with ourselves, right? We say, I want to do this. How do I follow through? That when I say I'm going to do that, I'm actually going to do it. And so we thought this would be a really important question. Another way sometimes you can frame it is, how do I have an untiring mind? A mind that doesn't tire. In the service space ecosystem, I have an untiring mind. They often use that word, untiring mind. We don't give up. Number 6.
Okay, number 6. How do I live a life without getting distracted? It's extremely modern. You probably heard one of the stories. We have a few months, I think it was a year ago, or 2 years already. They decided to, for a period of time, stay in the monastery, and after the transmission of 8 precepts, they decided to, not eat after midnight,
Afternoon.
Afternoon. After midnight too.
After midnight, that'd be good.
Afternoon. And keep the vow of celibacy, and, it's a lot of renunciation commitments. But we add one small element. Can you use your cell phones, any electrical devices, only in public spaces in the monastery? Means don't bring them to your dorm. Keep them here in the monastery, and you see this kind of an anxiety on the faces. Well, I'm not sure. I need to translate the book. I need to contact with my friend.
Only Dharma friends. Only Dharma friends.
Only Dharma friends. So because, celibacy no problem, but my phone, I don't know that I can even leave for a day, for a night. This is a problem. Can I go to the sleep without phone?
Yeah, so how not get distracted. How do I live a life of excellence? So maybe we won't go into all of them in detail, but how do I live a life of excellence? Right? People want to live a good life. How to live a great life.
Kind of a beauty, is it?
Yeah.
How do I live a life of inner and outer cleanliness?
Cleanliness, yeah. And then that's for pure karma. Number 9 we have is for undefiled karma. It sometimes feels a little bit negative, so we thought we kind of flip it in terms of how we would actually ask it in our lives. We say, how do I live a life free of afflictions? or if the word afflictions isn't that popular, maybe free of worries, right?
Can you
Or
imagine?
free of trouble. Can you imagine that?
No
Like
worries.
no
At all.
worries.
Everything is okay every moment.
What do you want to know? I mean, these are questions you'd want to know, right? How do I live a life free of worries? You know, and maybe I can like help my mom so she doesn't have to worry too, and my dad.
First, they don't have to worry about me.
That's a good start. That's a good start. Yeah.
Number 10, how do I live a life guided by clarity and understanding?
Yeah. Bigger? Okay. I can do
Okay,
that.
sure.
To double? At least double. Is that okay? Do a bit small. Okay, I can make it bigger.
So,
No problem. Let me just give me one
Okay.
second here. I can make font bigger. Just tell me when is enough. It's enough? Okay.
so the form as wisdom, we try to translate into clarity, understanding. Another way to saying, I really know what's going on. In my heart, in my mind, and outside, I can make decisions which don't create any worries, any troubles, and lead us to kind of beauty and to fulfill life and
So-
support others as well.
So yeah, don't we want that too, right? Not a life guided by stupidity, or sometimes that's what happens, right? We go, why did I do that? You know, what was I thinking? So, okay, so the activity, I don't know if we can pass out the sheets. I think we asked one of our people in our back. We have sheets of paper for everyone with pens, and maybe you have to share the pens because I don't think we have enough. And maybe people can help pass out some of the papers and pens. So what we thought was we probably can only answer probably 2 of these questions. So we thought people could actually pick, after listening to all 10, and we'll put it all on the screen here, you can actually choose which of these 10 you would like to ask. If you were to ask Manjushri Bodhisattva yourself, you're foremost wisdom Bodhisattva, and you want to ask Manjushri Bodhisattva, which of these would you want an answer to? And we were going to go investigate it
What is the
together
kind of
tonight.
burning question? What is you
Yeah.
care with you? I really want to know.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see all of them at once here. Let's see, I can make enter full screen.
Just pick up the number and we do a little bit counting and see
Yeah,
what is the pool show us.
yeah.
The online people can also choose, right?
Yeah,
the
you
number.
can choose if you want online, but you can't vote more than once online. Sure, if you want to choose 2 questions, okay. We'll pick the highest 2.
And Luke, could you count
Yeah, okay. great.
later to show
Luca
us?
is
the
actually a PhD in mathematics, so we can trust that he will get the
He's well qualified.
well qualified in this job.
Your years of education now can be used.
Now it matters.
And help people with the Dharma.
Number 10, yeah. How do I live a life guided by clarity and understanding? Can you see? Can people see the? Oh, it's not going all the way. Can we move the screen down just another, maybe 1.5 feet? Oh, it needs to still be larger? Okay. Can people see there?
You can also add your question if you have
Maybe
something.
you can, if you want to write a question too, we can. Can you see? Can you maybe copy it into the chat box somehow? I can send it to you. It's on the Google Doc I shared with you. If you type it into the chat box, people can see.
So look, can you go around
So we can
and pick
collect,
up-
people can
collect,
pass it up.
yeah.
It's only to write 2 numbers, so it shouldn't take you too much time. Give it to Luke.
Just put the number.
Just put the number. You have to write the question, but you can write a question if you want, and
You can write the question.
we can try our best to look at him. You give it to Luke, and he will do the math. So maybe as Luke's collecting it, we will just share a little bit about some of the, I think, principles we've learned about engaging with the sutra.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did here, actually like last night, we were really reflecting on how would we make the sutra kind of come alive and kind of connect with ourselves. And sometimes the words that are being used seem a little bit foreign, right? We don't really talk to ourselves as, so how do I have pure karma of body, speech, and mind? That's not kind of a thought I have during the day. But sometimes we do have a thought, well, how do I live a life that I feel good about, where I feel clean and pure?
不毁坏。
然后第四个是坏，
不可坏身，
不可坏身呀。
那毁也是应该是毁坏，毁掉你的身语意业，也跟第三个迎合的不可坏身，这个坏跟毁有一点不一样。
对。Jing Fo is just pointing at the Chinese in terms of these two are quite similar, 毁跟坏，毁坏。你要解释不一样的地方吗？ Want to explain where you think the difference is, Jing Fo师？
毁它是你自己毁坏你自己的身，那坏呢，就是说不可坏，去把身体坏掉，坏掉身，所以这个两个都蛮接近的。
So Jing Fo says these two are quite similar. Hui is kind of more internal, maybe. What I saw Reverend Heng Shi, he actually translated it as blameless, which I thought was interesting.
他怎么？
施法师翻译成 blameless。blameless
是什么？
就是你不能批评。
批评。
你不能说不好。blameless。
好像
不同一点点。
Yeah,
it's kind of, the word is similar, indestructible twice. Yeah.
他讲成说不要去讲人家坏话，诽谤人家了。
不是，那个 blameless 是I don't know what the Chinese, what would blameless in Chinese be? 没有后悔，有点不是诽谤。blameless is, when you live a blameless life, it's like you have no 不责备，不责备，不责备，
不责备啊！哇，那这更严了，更差，
好，可以看一看。
Yeah.
Jing Fosher is feeling this one is not a good translation for the Chinese, because in the Chinese, it comes out as these two words are quite similar, 毁 and 坏。毁坏 often a pair.
诽谤那个又不一样的日言，他这个毁是好像去把它你身体把它消灭掉，就用去火烧掉啊这些的自杀，这个都可以讲毁掉你的身。那这个坏身呢？坏就是你 可以不，其实这个就是有一点点类似了。
Yeah, they're quite similar if you look at it. I see Master Hua, when he explained it, he described both of them quite similar in different places. He actually gave commentaries on the purifying practices twice.
先空上
司
人
法师他
有
上人他解释的一样，很相似，在两个这个注解。
他先空上人有，
他两个就是像金刚的这个业，你不会毁坏。So I said Master Hua's explanation is quite similar for both. But 我想这个是比较细的东西，佛师没关系。
好
Yeah, it's okay. For this context, we thought of keeping blameless because I think it gives another nuance to the conversation. Luke?
We have how many winners do you need?
Two.
Two
Just
winners.
Two winners.
3 and 9.
3 and 9. Okay.
3 and
3 and 9.
9.
How do I live a life free of regrets? And how do I live a life free of afflictions? Okay.
Free of afflictions.
Free of regrets. Do you want to take the free of regrets? I can do free of afflictions.
Yeah, this is a very good question. Yeah, you know, I was. What's came to my mind first. This is something which Reverend Heng Sure very emphasized about the kind of marker of the Bodhisattva path, and we can say that northern tradition of Mahayana is our relationships, how the relationships are important. And we can say that we relate it to ourselves, we can say we are related to community, and we relate it to natural world. It's a lot of things we're connected to. And the important element, you know, is first to take an account that be free of the regrets, to deeply know that our actions, body, speech, and mind, have an impact of others' well-being. And what came to my mind also is that, I don't know if you heard about the study made in Harvard about this. The longest study what is performed, I think, is they took them 8 years to check what gives us long and happy life. Was the question. They measure many aspects, you know, what people's education are, you know, IQ, you know, a lot of elements to see what's really bring the happiness and long life. You know, how we take care about health, sugar, you know, level and cholesterol and so forth. And the answer was very surprising. It's relationship, the quality good relationships. And they says is more important than fame, than money. Even your genes, that take very warmth and a good relationships, how we take care of each other. And I think this is really connected to the quality of a relationship. Do we have really regrets? So do we really, we're talking about creative love. Mm-hmm. Do we really make a harm? Like what make regret? And our hearts knows. If we do something what is unskillful, something what's regretful, it doesn't feel good in the heart. We just recently heard the story of the one man from India. He says his grandma has 94 years old, I think. And he says for most of her life he just loved to visit many temples. And very good life dedicated to charity, cherishing many relationships, what she has. He says when she goes to sleep, and usually she goes like 9 p.m., she straightly sleep 10 hours. 94, you can imagine. No problem. I think this is the life of free of regrets that can really, without even looking on your age, the quality of the sleep, the quality of life is quite significant when we have a life based on creative love and deep care So back to this Harvard studies, they says that the one doctor says in the end, as a kind of the main point of the studies, the loneliness kills. Is same powerful like alcohol or smoking. So what sometimes make people very lonely, this kind of disconnections and a lot of mistakes what we made. So have in mind, can we act in the way that we don't have to regret, that we have a space in our hearts and minds to really feel how this action can affect someone else is quite pivotal.
Yeah, maybe just to add to it, I don't know if people know a sutta. A sutta is a teaching of the Buddha, and this comes from the Pali canon, and it's called the Mango Sutta. And how it goes is, Rahula is the Buddha's son. I think he was something like 9 years old, and he's a little boy in the monastery, having fun, and he's a novice. So what happens is, of course, his father is the Buddha. And so people come to the monastery and ask for where the Buddha is, because they want to ask questions like, what we're talking about tonight. And what does Rahula do? He actually tricks the people coming. Oh, the Buddha is over in that city over there, or he's, across the country over there. And so these people who come from great distances to find the Buddha, go off looking for the Buddha in all these different places. And, or who is playing these tricks on people. So the other monks find out about this, and they said, world honored one, hate to break it to you, but your son's causing problems. Your son's causing problems. He's tricking the people who've come so far to come and learn the Dharma from you, to go on these wild chases across India. So what does the Buddha do? Right? So he actually calls Venerable Ananda over. And he uses a series of analogies to just demonstrate actually, Rahula, a person who lies is just like kind of like an empty cup. It's hollow inside, you could say. So he gives a number of analogies. I won't go into those in detail. But then what I think is really applicable to this question about living a life free of regrets connects with what Jing Weisher said, but also expands on it, is that the Buddha told Venerable Rahula, who's a novice, which I think is also very interesting as a parent, talking about parenting, right? So he doesn't just scold his son and say, you're doing wrong, you get punished. He actually gives his son a method for looking inward and understanding how to live his life, how to live a life free of regrets. And so what he says, Rahula, before you take an action of body, speech, and mind, right, before you do something, reflect. Does this cause harm for myself? Does this cause harm for others? Does this bring benefit for myself? Does this bring benefit to others? And it seems very simple, but how often do we not do that? Right? Before we do something, we just do it impulsively because that's what we want to do. But if we just paused for like 5 seconds before we do something that we're not 100% sure of, and we just ask ourselves this question: does this harm myself in any way? Will this harm the other person in any way? Just that a little bit can save us a lot of regret. And so the Buddha says that to Venerable Rahula. The second thing he tells him, he says, as you're doing the action, you can reflect. Is this causing harm to myself or to the other person? Is this bringing well-being to myself or the other person? Which I think is interesting. That means we're always paying attention. So even as I'm doing something, let's say I'm in a conversation with somebody I really care about, but something we disagree about. So as I'm talking, as I'm watching my speech, am I saying things that are harming me or harming the other person? Or is it actually leading to more well-being for myself and the other person? I'll tell you a clue. If I'm just talking because I want to prove I'm right, that's probably not going down the right path. Just as a starting marker, if you want, if it's I'm just trying to prove I'm right at all costs, that's probably not leading to well-being, because there's a way of saying it. In a war, everyone loses. Even if you win the argument, the kind of the aftermath of that kind of fighting, affects people's relationships. Like Jing Wei Shi just said, the quality of our relationships deteriorates, and then we have a lot of pain and regret. So the Buddha says, as you're going through the action, reflect. And then the third one, he said, is after you do the action, you reflect. Did this harm the other person or myself? Did this bring happiness and well-being to the other person or myself? And I think this is actually very interesting, because even if we make a mistake, there's a way that we can actually heal. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking just a quick story, because I remember this came to me when we were talking about no regret, is that I have regrets. And if something came up a little bit spontaneously when we had a exercise at DRBU as a community, and we had this exercise where we actually go through a series of questions when we actually caused harm to somebody else. And the questions were, first question is, what happened? The second question is, what were you thinking at the time? Third question is, what have you thought about since? Fourth question, who did this affect and how? And the fifth question is the most important, is how do you make things right? I'm sorry to make it too detailed, but I found it's extremely helpful, these 5 questions, because it's a way to look at our lives where we don't go to blame. We don't go to self-judgment. Right? So oftentimes when we do something wrong, for myself, I often say to myself, how can you be so stupid? Why couldn't you see things more clearly? Who told you to even do that? Why would you even think that? And it's a kind of very self-critical, aggressive, harsh mind. And that doesn't really help in terms of living a life free of regret. So when I did this exercise with a student at the RBU, something that came to me was my brother. I've told the story, so maybe some people know it, but I was just saying, you know what? When I was growing up, I would tease my little brother. His name is Darren. He's about 6.5 years younger than me. And so I would tease him. I'd call him Darren the Barbarian. And he'd be very angry, like, what? You say, David Wavid. You try to, make fun of me. But I'm 6.5 years older than him. So I'm like, that just sounds stupid, And so, I remember him getting very angry at me. And it was interesting because growing up, I got teased in elementary school. And so I generally made a kind of a personal commitment not to bully anybody or make fun of anyone. But I realized somehow I didn't have that, my brother was an exception. It just didn't even register in my mind until I became a junior in high school. When I became a junior in high school, I actually made a vow saying, you know what, I actually want to stop teasing my brother. But before that, I would tease him. And so I thought, well, what was I thinking during that time? Because I was a student. So he asked the question, so what were you thinking? And I said, what was I thinking? I don't know what I was thinking. It just maybe fun. I don't even know. It just seemed like I just did it kind of intuitively almost. It's like just as an older brother, just making fun of my brother. I don't even know. So the third question was, so what have you thought about since? I said, well, I actually regret. I feel bad about that because I know that he really wasn't happy with it, and I just, I really care about my brother and really love him, but somehow I actually hurt him, and then the fourth question was, so who did it affect and how? So as going back to those relationships, I actually think it affected our relationship. Somehow me and my brother aren't that close. We respect each other, we talk to each other, but there isn't a kind of real closeness that I think perhaps because when I was younger, I created those kind of negative affinities. And so I was kind of reflecting on that. And also internally, I feel like I haven't been a good brother. So I feel a little bit disappointed with myself. And for sure, I know it affected my mom. Because my mom always wanted me to have a good relationship with my brother. She was quite upset and angry whenever that happened. And so the fifth question, which I think gets to what we were just talking about. So what can you do to make things right? So I told the student, I said, I think I can apologize. I can tell my brother, I'm sorry. I'm committed not to do that, ever again. And so fast forward, it's interesting, just a couple months later, I happened to go to an event for Tzu Chi. They have a Bathing Buddha Day, but it's a 3-day in one day. It's Bathing Buddha, Mother's Day, and Tzu Chi Day all in one. And they have it in their San Jose Tzu Chi Center. And my mom gets invited too, and so my mom brings my brother along. And so, oh wow, my brother is going to this event. And I remember, this seed from just 2 months before in the conversation I had with the student was in my mind, was in my heart. So, this is my opportunity. But it's kind of uncomfortable talking about these things. So I'm like, well, I'll see if there's a moment. So we drive. So somebody drives us down to the Tzu Chi kind of center, and then my mom and my brother volunteered to drive me back to Berkeley Monastery. So I was, this is an opportunity. So we're driving, and we're kind of just talking about stuff, and I think it's kind of hard to bring it up. And finally, we're almost at the door. Just maybe we drive off the highway. We're now getting onto Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue. And I'm like, if I don't say anything now, I'm going to miss my chance. And so I lean over to my brother, Darren. He says, yeah? He says, remember when we were younger and I teased you quite a bit? He said, yeah? Not sure where I'm going with this. I said, well, I felt pretty bad that I teased you. I'm really sorry. I really didn't want to hurt you. I really care about our relationship. If you forgive me. And he kind of looked at me. This is like 20 years later, Okay, he's driving, and it's kind of like, we're getting to the monastery door. And so as I'm getting out of the car, he looks at me and he says, Jingchuan, I don't know if he said David, I'm not quite sure, remember, but he says, I forgive you. I forgive you. And it was interesting, I felt almost like a knot in my heart just kind of untied. I was like, okay, yeah, So living a life free of regret. So we have regrets in our life because we often do things that we don't think through. But fortunately, there are ways to heal. And one way is to actually really admit to our mistakes and then take responsibility for them and then try and make amends. So that's life free of regret. Now, free of worries and afflictions, that's a hard one.
It's a very hard one.
Because I have a lot of afflictions and worries. However, maybe what we could do is we can transition to our India slideshow, because we can introduce you to one person that, if I were to say, seems to not have worries and afflictions, it would be this person.
It's true.
It's somebody that we met that literally is, changed what I thought is humanly possible. Like maybe what I would actually meet in my life is humanly possible. He's somebody that is like a tidal wave of compassion just kind of flowing through wherever he is. And so we'll meet him when we go through the slideshow in India. So for those who had that question, we'll get to that in our India slideshow.
With very concrete examples.
With very concrete examples, yeah. Okay, I'll give you one example, just precursor. So his name is Jayesh Bai, because we don't have a slide of this.
Oh, Jayesh
of it.
Patel.
Jayesh Patel is his full name, but Jayesh Bai, Bai is like uncle.
Like uncle.
Like uncle, you know, it's like Uncle Jayesh. And so, for instance, he actually takes care of the Gandhi ashram and also the center that we were staying at. It's called the Environmental Sanitation Institute. So I met his daughter, Prakruti, who is actually wants to do acting, wants to go to Bollywood, which is interesting. And she met another actor in New York, who I think is her fiance now. And he was talking to me, and he was talking about his father-in-law. I just like been blown away by his father-in-law. It's like, you don't meet people like this, you know?
And one small observation. So one week later, to tell you what's happened, but one of the men's, when he witnessed what Jayesh Pai is doing, like moment by moment, he says, wow, he's like Jesus Christ. So you can imagine, okay, Jinchuanshi was very curious. How does Jesus Christ have a kind of family life?
Yeah,
How it looked like in your home.
Yeah, so it was so the fiance of his daughter was sharing how they were at the airport, and this man came who was drunk and started abusing Jayesh, you know, like yelling at him, abusing him. And he said, you know, Prakruti's father, he just looked at this man, you know, very gently, says, you know, you're doing a bad thing. No, this is not good. It's a bad thing. And he said, then when they got onto the plane, Jayesh bought a meal and offered it to the man, very caringly, very humbly, and gave it to the man. And this man had no idea what was going on. He says, wow, I was like just yelling at you and abusing you, and like you're giving me? Who are you? He says, well, you know, I take care of the Gandhi ashram. He said, well, can I support you in any way? He says, yeah, if you would like, you can make an offering to this. He also takes care of a whole community of lepers. I don't know if people know leprosy. You know, it's kind of a disease where your body actually falls apart. Yeah, you can make an offering if you wish. And so the man actually ended up supporting the leprosy community. And it's like, he's like, yeah, people don't do that. This is from his daughter's fiance, and his daughter's fiance is like, and it's a little bit intimidating because oftentimes, daughters for their future fiancés have their fathers as their role models. So, but it's to me it was just a really kind of somebody who you could see even in trying circumstances. He doesn't let afflictions take over. He lets compassion guide.
Or don't see any challenges as a troubles.
Yeah.
It's always opportunity to connect and to make transformation, kind of to hold the space. And it's quite inspiring to see the kind of aliveness of it.
Okay, so this is what we wanted to share with people.
Trip.
Our trip to India. Let me share screen. Oh, somebody did ask a question. Maybe we'll get to the question if there's time. Somebody asked about laziness in cultivation. Okay, so we first want to start with a map, in case people don't know where India is. This is where we are, California. And over here is India. You can see how far away it is. It's pretty much on the other side of the world.
Right.
So we actually flew to Dubai, which is over here, and then flew to India. So this is the first one.
Long flight.
Long flight. This is where we went, Gujarat, Ahmedabad. And the place we stayed at was called Environmental Sanitation Institute. And there's a story behind this. The Environmental Sanitation Institute is devoted to sanitation. So when you walk in, on the right side, you see a whole kind of display of toilets, different kinds of toilets. Because the founder of this center was actually Jayesh Bai's, I'm going to go a little bit out of order. I don't know if I have a picture of his father. Jayesh Bai's father, here, Jayesh Bai's father, Ishtar, who, sorry, I'm going a little bit out of order, but
it's okay, go ahead.
Jump in if you want to. So his father's also an amazing man. So we heard the story was, so Gandhi, devoted his life to, I think people know, the independence of India, right? People know that. But he actually says something, he says, even more important to him is sanitation. More important to him than the independence of India is sanitation. And for a multitude of reasons. For instance, with sanitation, people are a lot healthier. We take for granted that we have bath toilets here. In India, they don't have toilets. So what happens is the women actually, everyone, but women especially, have it hard. Because when they go out to use the restroom, they can get attacked or raped, you know. So they actually only go out at night in groups. Can you imagine that's the environment that they're in? And that the actual excrement is actually cleaned up by a whole group of people called the untouchables. They're called the scavengers. And they're really looked down by society. That even if you get touched by a scavenger, you can like beat them because they're seen as unclean. Right? So just really looked down upon. And Gandhi said, this is the most horrible thing in our culture, is that we have these kind of practices. And he really wanted to change that. So Jayesh Bhai's father, Ishtar, come Ishtar Dada, basically was inspired by Gandhi and said, he's going to devote his life to sanitation. And so he went around and basically tried to design a very efficient toilet. And he'd go throughout India looking at different places. He even looked at like different villages and how they went to the bathroom, so you can design a bathroom just for the way they went to the bathroom. You know, he was very studious in his toilet making endeavors. But he also cleaned up. He also would clean up the excrement and poop, you know, wherever he was. So he earned himself the title Big Toilet. And Jayesh got the
What we
name
mentioned about
Little Toilet. This is Jayesh.
Little Toilet.
This is with his father. He's got the name Little Toilet. And he shares that when he was a kid, his father, he actually didn't like the name because he felt like people were making fun of him. So he would like be really upset being called Little Toilet. So for till like maybe 20 years old, you know, he was actually didn't want to follow in his father's footsteps. So he, you know, got a motorcycle, went to UK to study.
And we saw the pictures of him kind of looking
Yeah,
good
kind of
guy with the sunglasses.
Yeah, he's really
Like,
cool.
you know, next to the Burger King. It's an attractive restaurant in London.
Yeah, so he was just sharing with us how he was in London though, and it dawned on him. He said, people here are quite wealthy, but not happy. They're not satisfied. And somehow my father had so little, cleaning up people's poop, but he was happy. What was my father doing? So he wrote a letter back to his father saying that, you know, somehow the people here are very wealthy, but not satisfied. But yet what you are doing, you're happy. You know, he's asked, can I join you in what you're doing? And he says his father knew he was ready, so his father knew how to kind of hit him on the head. So his father wrote back a letter and told him, if you can clean up other people's excrement, and even if they criticize you and abuse you to the point they actually poop on your head, and you can still be happy, then you can come. If you're not ready to do that, then don't come.
Are you ready?
Are you ready? Are you ready? Can you still have joy in your heart cleaning other people's poop with absolutely no reward? In fact, you're actually getting criticized and attacked, because that's what happened. Because when you start doing that work, people look down upon you. Jayesh will tell us, people look down upon you. Not that you clean up their poop for them; they're so happy. They actually look down, or they could they could get upset, or think you're just putting on a show. So, but he said he came back. And he just devoted himself in his father's footsteps. And honestly, he's one of the happiest people I've met in my life. This guy is I don't know how to describe.
Just one short story about Jayesh Bhai's father. When he was passing away and dying in the hospital, it was quite painful. The doctors and nurses, everyone asks how we can help you, how we can comfort you. He says, I have one wish. Because in India, it's a lot of, you can see poverty and so forth. So the hospital was a good hospital, but it's a lot of kind of not very take care of the walls, was kind of cracked, it needs to be kind of refreshed. So yes, can you paint out and help to to clean up and repaint the whole department? I really wish that everyone who will be there and their last moments of life can be welcome and have a kind of warm environment. Yes, Dada, we can do it. So in 24 hours, with many brigades of constructors and repaint and remodel the whole department of the hospital. And he left this world with the kind of happy face. Even the last moment, he was caring about other patients and wish for them have a very good place for departure. It's quite unusual.
So to me, that's actually a pretty amazing thing just to reflect on, is can we do that? Because we do a lot of things in our lives that are just very mundane, like cleaning the bathroom, in the monastery at least. But I'm sure you have to do that at home as well, right? You have to vacuum your floors, or you have to, what else? Drive to work, right? But can you do those simple acts, what he says, with great love, with great care? And that's what this Bodhisattva does in the Purifying Practices chapter. If you went and read the rest of the chapter, right? We'll give you a little bit of the, what do you say, when they say you give away the movie, you say you're giving away the trailer, not trailer, it's called a spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
There's a spoiler alert for the rest of the sutra, was you'll see the Bodhisattva does simple actions with great heart. And actually maybe...
Just one, I get to talk about
you
him.
keep talking about these two.
I was talking about deep care and make the space more beauty than you encounter. So anywhere Jayesh Bhai is going, and we watch this so many times before we enter to the mosque, we enter to some home or some event, first things what he do, he look at on the shoes. And very often a little bit messy, not very kind of putting online. So very quietly, with kind of humble heart, he puts all this, shoes together, line up. They look very kind of orderly and kind of beautiful. Yeah. And with kind of joy that, I have opportunity to serve right now. And it was very funny because everyone watching what he's doing, and after that we have all army of people who are looking of the shoes, how to put them in, and it's simple but so transformative. Yeah. In the very small actions to see opportunity to do this creative love, as put the shoes. Yeah, it was actually very touching because we were just walking in the Gandhi ashram. He actually, takes care of the Gandhi ashram. You could say he's the actual leader of it, if you want to use that kind of language. But he's so humble. So, people don't really notice who he is because he doesn't put on any fanfare. And there's a group of school children, like 100 girls, a girls' school. Their shoes are everywhere in front of the place where Gandhi is staying. And so we're about to go on a tour he's going to show us around. And the first thing, he just walking off and starts putting shoes, all lined up. And you say, I like to do this, He starts putting shoes. These are for the little girls who've come to take a look at the Gandhi ashram. He's the one who actually, you could say, runs the center. He's there putting everyone's shoes, in line. And we're standing there going, well, if he's doing that, what are we supposed to do? We're joining there. Everybody's, putting shoes in line. And just so when the girls come out, their shoes are right there so they can put it on very nicely. Everything's very tidy. And can you imagine, normally we can come the leader of the center, well, I will teach you how you should, respect the sacred space. First, start with your shoes. They have to be orderly put and so forth. No. What he does, just have opportunity to serve. And he really kind of embody the spirit of Mr. Rogers says. This attitude of service and heart and love has to be caught, not taught. Yeah, and so
There's so much to share. So this actually, I realized behind them here is actually a quote from Gandhi that's extremely powerful. And we actually took a picture of this right here. I don't know if people can actually read it. Can people read that? I do not want moksha. Do you know what moksha means? It means liberation.
Liberation.
解脱, freedom, complete freedom from suffering. He says, I do not want complete freedom from suffering. I do not want to be reborn, but if I have to be reborn, I should be born as an untouchable, so that I may share their sorrows, sufferings, and the affronts leveled against them, so that I may endeavor to free myself and them from that miserable condition. So what is his vows? His vows is, I want to be reborn as an untouchable, so I can experience what they experience and be of service.
And you can imagine in our context that some of us can make a vow, I want to be reborn among the homeless people in Oakland who would have nothing. They sleep in the tent through the rain, the cold winds and so forth, and I will have a privilege to be among them, share their burdens, their suffering, and so forth.
Yeah, so you can see, that's why I said, I just noticed that behind them is actually this quote that's behind both of them. So you can see the lineage right there, right? You have Gandhi behind there, Ishtar Dada, and Jayesh Patel. Jayesh Bhai. Okay, so sorry, we kind of didn't go by order. So that's the ESI. This is a village, that's the first place we went. And actually this village was a place that Jayesh Bhai has been supporting. And we heard the story about how it started. So Jayesh Bhai doesn't really plan. He just starts walking around and things spontaneously emerge.
Yeah.
So he sees this village is completely covered with trash. And it's got poop all over this lake.
What Jayesh Bhais do?
Yeah, so what Jayesh Bhai do?
Put his hands on and start cleaning by his hand the human's poop.
And of course, like compost piles, and he starts cleaning up the town, the little village, and he cleans up all the trash. And the kids come out, and he makes it a game. So that all the kids are cleaning up the trash, and he says to the kids after they're working, he says, "What do you want?" So we want Coca-Cola. It's okay, everyone Coca-Cola. So they got a little Coca-Cola they drink. Okay, let's go back to work. They all clean up the village, right? First thing he does, cleans up the poop, cleans up the village, and for them, they don't come in with like a huge plan. Like, what are you going to do? I'm going to help these people this way, help these people that way.
How can fundraising, bring the plans and so forth?
They just live with the people. They really get to know the people. And he says, organically things will arise, that you can be of service. Because his hope is that he develops self-respect and self-reliance. He says it's not like this, where you give, and it's not like this, where you receive. It's like this. It's friendship.
And they call mitra.
Mitra.
There's someone who, and we met those people, kind of young, full of bright kind of men who decided to live with these very extremely poor people and share with them the life, their work, help with children, slowly kind of build the trust, be closer to community. And together, they all knows what really community needs. Mm-hmm. It's not the first answer is money. Of course, they need some material support, but it's growing with kind of grassroots effort. It's coming from trust, from deep respect and dignity, what they're giving to those people, what is very transformative and beautiful model.
So this is the lake around, that was near the village that was cleaned up. Because before, it was where people used the restroom, right? So they also built some restrooms. Oh, this is, so we were on the trail on this to the village, and this is a cut tree. What is the significance of this? So we happen to be walking with Jayesh Bhai, and all of a sudden he stops. He sees this tree. So the path is like this, and this is on the edge of the path. And he just bends down and he touches the tree.
Kept maybe for 20 seconds.
Yes, 20 seconds, just like this. And after that, he turns and says, they didn't have to cut this tree. it was not disturbing anybody, but it's okay. Somebody. So he says, what did you do? Did you like pray for the tree? He says, no. I just be with the tree.
Be with compassion.
Be with compassion. The way he held the tree is like a mother caring for her like only son.
Yeah.
That kind of care.
And all the time he does this. When we walk with him, is this tree just giving a little bit hug?
Yeah.
You know, and once he came, today I met 200 kids. And it was very spontaneous, very spontaneous. So we play around, and I saw the tree, and something inside told me that I need to include this tree in our play. So the kids will start playing with tree, and he treats the tree, every plant, like a living beings. What is very talking about Bodhisattva spirit. It's a very close talking about relationship, deep care. And it's amazing. I know what we're saying this like, what are you talking about, It's like real, the point that I'm in the dream.
Yeah, I'm a dream. Is this like real? Is he real? I don't know.
Is it real?
So, okay, so we get to the village, and so they welcome us. I don't know if people can guess what this is, that this is made out of. This is any ideas?
What do you think? Oh, we didn't bring one of the...
Oh, we forgot to bring the item. Yeah, good guess. Right? Cow dung.
Yeah.
I think it might be of goat dung. It's one of the, some kind of poop though. Some kind of poop. And then they made it a nice welcome with a heart. And there, actually behind us, is actually cow dung.
Yeah, this is the wall.
This is actually real cow dung. So people know in India cows are considered sacred, and their poop is very valuable because it actually can do lots of things. Use it for their houses to kind of help keep the house up. You can burn it for fuel. So it's not, and the cow is kind of like family. You go to the village, there are cows around. It's like
they have names,
Yeah.
They actually offer the food before they eat to the animals and to the cows. And a deep love, touching them, looking into their eyes, to the cow. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, it's a different world for sure. I don't think we probably live with a cow in your home. So anyway, this is Jayesh, the two monks on the side. This is Gary Zukov. He actually has been to the 7,000 Buddhas. I know people heard his name before. He wrote a book called The Dancing Woolly Masters, one of the very early books connecting, you could say, spirituality and physics.
And he's someone who changed life of Oprah Winfrey. She invited to go, I think he was the most visited guest of her show. So it's interesting man who bring a lot of awareness about science and then spirituality.
Yeah, and so he's actually been to 7,000 Buddhas, and we actually found he didn't have the Dharma name, so he took refuge with Master Hua, and he said Master Hua was actually a pretty profound influence on his life.
Yeah.
Do you remember the quote he said when he heard Master Hua said? I think it was something like, if the Dharma that I'm teaching, if somebody would pay me like 10,000 gold coins, I would not give it to them. But I will teach it for free on the side of the road.
I'll give it away for free
Yeah,
from the side
on
of
the
the
side
wall.
of the
But
road.
it's priceless. I cannot sell it for
Yeah.
any price.
And that made a big impact on him. And for me, that's actually the spirit of what this whole retreat when we went there was about, is that it takes us out of the mind of transaction into a deep place of real transformation, right? If we think about doing things because we're going to get something in reward, our mind's already locked in a kind of dualistic, I'm getting kind of framework. But if I'm just doing things out of the goodness of my heart without any expectations, that's real happiness.
Mhm.
That's really when we talk about a life free of afflictions, is the afflictions come because we have expectations.
Or we want to fix, or something has to be in particular way. If it's not like that, we are a little bit upset.
A little bit of that. Yeah, for sure. And so these are the kids, they really love him.
The sound.
Maybe it's harder to get the sound. But anyways, you can see, so when they see him in the village, all of them were like super excited to see him. you know.
They jump on him, hug him, it's quite amazing.
And the amazing thing is he does this all the time. He's like with new kids. He just walks through the city and he's able to like connect with the children in like 10 seconds. And before you know, they're playing with them. They're like his best friend. I'm like, wow, like, did you know them before? It's no first time we met.
Yeah.
What? Anyway, so this is one of the houses that one of the village women was staying in. And where's our timer? So maybe it's our last story.
Last story, and we
share
can
more
continue
later.
if we have an opportunity. We just begin.
We just began.
This is our first day.
Yeah, our first day. We haven't got through our first day. So we visited this is one of the homes of the woman in India and the villagers. And this is her and Jayesh. So
And she didn't know that we will visit her home. She invited us for the dinner.
yeah.
It was like, I don't know how many of us, like 10 of us.
Yeah, maybe like, yeah.
Or 7 people. And when she heard that she will host the group of people, was so happy.
Yeah.
Start cooking and preparing the dinner for us. We, of course, respectfully told her that we eat one meal a day, so we cannot join the lunch, but we very rejoice everyone's happiness.
Dinner, yeah. Actually, and she kept repeating to us, guest is God.
Guest is
We heard
God.
that so many times in India, that they really have a spiritual practice, you could say, or just in the part of their culture, that when guests come, you treat them like the divine. You really take care of them. And so this is Jayesh with her. And then Jayesh told us, because her kids came by and really like gave Jayesh a hug and things. So later when we were in the home, Jayesh pointed to the father. He said he actually committed suicide. He said he couldn't find a livelihood, and so he actually committed suicide.
She's a widow.
So the widow.
With 3 kids.
Yeah. And so he came to the village, and she was really in a difficult situation. So he said, "You just treat me like your brother.
Jeshbai says to
Just
her.
treat me like your brother. We'll make it through." And that's what she did. And so she considered him like his brother, and his kids consider him like their uncle. It's just like it's literally that's the kind of energy that he gives, like and.
And the
don't know
Jeshbai
what to
walked.
say.
We don't have a picture.
Which one?
On the another corner of this room was
Oh.
a shrine.
Yeah, it's a corner behind here.
Corner
There's a little
behind here.
shrine, yeah.
And Jeshbai says, this is a very important place. This is the place when she get a support.
Mm.
Faith make her went through all these difficulties. This is the real thing. He says that what is the strongest thing in India is faith.
Mhm.
This is the strongest virtue of Indian people. And you know what is the weakest point?
Gandhi said this.
Gandhi
Yeah,
says
said
this.
Yeah.
Heartless intellectuals.
Heartless. Yeah, he says the greatest strength of India is faith. And he says, what is the biggest challenge or the biggest threat? I'm not sure what the exact word was. He says heartless intellectuals, which makes you really think. Heartless intellectuals. And you think about the last, 100 years of humanity and the wars that we've had and the suffering that's been created. It's oftentimes it's very smart people doing things without a caring heart, right? If you really look at it.
And it was quite touching for this moment, meeting these people who literally have nothing in terms of material wealth, but I felt that I'm from third country because their internal wealth was like beyond imagination. They live, all these villagers are connected, support each other, kids are staying together. And you see in their eyes kind of the dignity, this kind of uprightness and brightness, which is really touching the heart. And even in the beginning, it not means they're constantly happy, as we see. They have up and downs. Even those women, when we sit in the circle, in the silence, she starts crying, right?
Yeah.
For a moment. And later she's just smiling, seeing that everyone is very kind of enjoying prepared food. Very simple dishes, made with love, with kind of care. Deep connection to the heart, and really embodying the guest is a god in our home.
Yeah, I just remember one more story, and we won't go too much longer. So this man here is, what's his name is?
Ronaldo,
Ronaldo, who's a shaman in
Brazil,
Brazil.
in
yeah.
Amazon, Brazil.
Amazon. His wife is next to him. And his wife at one point was with a woman and cooking with her. They were making the rotis, which are like the bread. And so they couldn't really communicate much, but they were kind of trying to figure things out. So basically, the woman asked if Ronaldo was her husband. He said, yeah, husband. Right? He said, very beautiful. He says, does he take care of you? Right? He says, yes, he takes good care of me. Takes good care of me. And then she asked her, about her husband. She said, yeah, my husband takes care of me too. And later found out her husband actually committed suicide. It's like, wow. You just have these very raw and kind of human experiences in India that just, you take away the veneer of kind of our polite, kind of superficial experiences, and you just kind of go, wow, human beings are being human beings.
Yeah, that was our day number 1.
Day number 1, and we can go to maybe day number 2 next time.
Next time.
So we will finish here. I think our final thing is our dedication of merit. We can maybe save this question, how to overcome laziness. How to overcome laziness, that's a good question. We can save that for future lectures. And then, let's see, what else? And then we can do dedication of merit. Let me get it. So people should have that on your piece of paper in front of you. The dedication of merit. I'll also put it on the screen if people want to look at it. And maybe after that we can give some announcements of what's going on. Okay, so really happy everyone could come out to learn the Dharma together. Also for those online, I'm happy you could join us. And next week, Reverend Heng Sure will be lecturing from Australia. So we'll get to tune in then. Okay.
May every living beings, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace, with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise.
Okay, 3 bows to the Buddha. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Okay, so please don't log out yet. If we have a couple of announcements. Number 1, we have a Great Compassion Mantra, Dedication of Merit, tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m. So people who've been reciting the Great Compassion Mantra, please join. We'll have it on Zoom. Also, we have, and also on YouTube, we also are planning to have a Amitabha session, Jingfo Shi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With
What dates, Jingfo Shi?
With transmission 8 precepts.
Yeah. What day, Jingfo Shi?
March
17th,
17,
right?
18, 19. That
3
is,
days.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so Saturday we will do a precept, Bhagwan Zaiji. Yeah. And every day we are chanting Amitabha section 8:30 to 10. And that is the morning. And afternoon, we'll do 2:30 to 2:30, 1.5 hour.
You mean
So-
2 to 3:30?
Because somebody told me about the CCTV, they do Tapezo,
Sabe Chan?
Tapetan
Oh,
until 2.
Okay, so
So
you want
Okay.
to do 2:30?
Yeah, 2:15. So, so
Okay.
we better from 2:30.
So 2:30.
So we give you all information on the website.
Yeah, I'll go
What is
website.
the time?
2:30 to 4. So
yeah,
here.
I think we need to change because
Yeah.
yeah,
So March 17th, or there, March 17th to 19th.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So-
we have a 2-pi way. Everybody one. You can make a 2-pi way. So we'll.
Yeah, we will have on post on the website
Yeah.
the link, and also you can, as Jin Forshi says, you can dedicate your practice and choose. You can support those who pass away or wishing a long life and kind of healthy health and so forth.
When also we open when Huahui, we open for people coming to chanting in the Buddha hall.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe we'll finish here. Anything from the tech side we need to do? Otherwise, good evening, everyone, and hope you can continue to join us for our Dharma practices online or in person. Okay, Amitofo.
Start tomorrow 4 a.m. Don't miss.
Okay. Okay, I think you finish with Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Huan Yin.
Sure.
Namo
Buddha